How's it going, everybody? My name is Pat Leahy. I'm a senior here at Fisher, graduating this spring. I'm a business major, majoring in marketing and human resources management, and I work in the Office of Enrollment Management for the executive internship. And I'm here today with my guest, Adam Crandall. Fortunate enough to interview him. Uh, Mr. Crandall is currently the Chief Revenue Officer for Dynamic Design Solutions, which is awesome. Does a lot with revenue and sales. Professor Crandall, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
Yeah, happy to have you. Thanks for joining me today.
I appreciate it. So my first question off the bat, what kind of guided you down the pathway to sales? Was there a specific experience that you had that got you interested? Was it the classes you took in college, or perhaps an experience outside of the classroom that got you interested in the career path that you're on?
Yeah, so a quick story. I actually was pre-med and majored in pre-med when I was at University of South Carolina freshman year of college before I transferred up to Fisher as a Fisher alum, and did a little apprenticeship with my pediatrician and got a chance to shadow him in the ER. And when I saw some medical procedures that didn't sit too well with my stomach, I said, I'm done. I'm not going to go into pre-med anymore. So I talked to one of my mentors at St. John Fisher, who is Professor Spinelli. He's no longer an adjunct there anymore. And he said, Crandall, why are you going into pre-med, man? You could sell anything to someone. You should go into business. So I switched my major, transferred up to St. John Fisher, got into the business field. And next thing I know, I'm diving into all kinds of different international business and selling classes. And here I am about 15 years later now as an executive in the advanced B2B sales world now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you about any previous internship experiences. I didn't expect you to talk about a pre-med internship as, you know, your changing point. Did you have any other internships during your time at Fisher related in sales or in the field of business?
I did. So another interesting thing, I used to work actually at Delta Sonic, the car wash company, when I was in St. John Fisher as a student, and I was their top salesman. I actually broke sales records for the entire company. So that also continued kind of poke my interest to get more involved into a sales type field. And then when I was a senior at St. John Fisher, I actually had an internship in corporate finance at Paytech, which is now Windstream, and loved the opportunity, great experience. But I knew for me, I was not the one to sit behind a desk and pull data all day in spreadsheets. So that again continued to really propel my opportunity. And then I was recruited actually right out of St. John Fisher for a Fortune 500 company, which is now known as Avantor Health Sciences. And when I was a student, it was VWR International at the time. And I went into their leadership development program. And when I finished that program, I actually had the opportunity to join their organization full time as a inside sales representative in 2009. And from there, I just knew sales was for me. They thrust me into their international business segment. I ran their global business segment, responsible for all sales, marketing, and international business. And my career really just started to take off and flourish. And I knew that sales, marketing, and international business was the path I wanted to go and continue down.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what a great story. And you spoke about your career flourishing. As you mentioned, you were a graduate of Fisher, and you were actually named under the top 10, under 10, I believe that's what it is, that accolade, which is kind of what we're all shooting for as, you know, as undergraduate students. We'd all love to, you know, one day get that award and get that recognition. What did that mean to you, being recognized, you know, with some of your peers by your college after graduation?
Yeah. So I actually received a nomination twice for the top 10 under 10, and just to be nominated was an incredible honor. It was, you know, obviously recognizing alumni and young professionals that have done things in not only their business career though, but also whether it's in their community or giving back to society. And, you know, to get that nomination, that was an incredible honor. You know, to me, Pat, it's not all about just making money and working hard. It's about giving back, which is also the reason why, you know, I went into teaching at St. John Fisher, and I started the Millennial Action Council, and I was able to hire over 10 students between NAS and Fisher as interns under my direction. So it was an incredible honor to receive that nomination. And that's really what was important to me, to have that recognition of having the impact on young professionals' lives at Fisher.
Totally. Yeah, that's, like I said, I mean, that's what we're all shooting for as, you know, undergraduates, especially in the School of Business, getting that recognition. I mean, that's an awesome thing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And you mentioned your time teaching at Fisher and at NAS. Were there any specific lessons or, you know, things that you learned along the way while teaching, or, experiences that have impacted you in your professional career that you may not have ran into if you weren't teaching or being a professor, but that kind of gave you a glimpse from a different perspective on things?
Yeah. So as a student, you always kind of sit in the chair in the academic world and say, what's waiting for me outside of these four walls? And you never really know. And I got into, again, VWR, which is now owned by Avantor, one of the largest biotech firms in the United States. And I got into my first corporate job and said, wow, there was a lot that I really didn't know and wasn't prepared for when I entered the workforce. And I said, maybe, is it just an anomaly? Is it just the industry maybe that was so fast paced? But then when I came back to Fisher as a professor and started seeing how much the students, the feedback they were to give me of, well, we're not learning this, or we don't know this, we're not getting this real world experience. That was a big eye-opening experience to me, to see the students directly tell me, Professor Crandall, we don't get this kind of exposure. And that's when I started hiring interns rapidly to give them the exposure of the business world. I learned the importance of real world experience that young professionals crave and desirably need in order to be successful. And then in addition to that, just how the millennial generation, just the skill set and the different types of things they bring to today's world, where I think there's this perception that they're lazy and not hard workers and they don't have the skills to be successful. What they really need is they need good mentors and good guidance to guide them and develop their skills. And they're the generation of the future. So I learned those two major things, I think, when I became an adjunct professor at St. John Fisher, and that really hit home with me.
Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. It's an interesting experience, and it's cool to see that you pull things from that experience that, help you on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely.
And you speak about mentors and mentorship. I'm sure you have. I met one of your mentors. I forget her name, but at your
I think it was Dee Kerr.
Yes, that's exactly who it was. So I know for a fact that you have had at least one, maybe Dee or someone else. But can you speak about one of the many mentors that you've had, and what their mentorship meant to you, things they may have taught you, experiences that you could have stood on their shoulders?
Yeah. So definitely going back to Dee Kerr, I mean, one of the major accomplishments in my eyes during my tenure at Fisher as an adjunct professor, we did the life skills workshop. And the whole reason why that life skills workshop was put on was because of Dee. I mean, Dee Kerr, she looked at someone like me and said, hey, you're 21 years old going into the big Fortune 500 world. And she took a chance on me and put me into a leadership role at 23 years old. I ran almost a $30 million plus global segment at 23 years old. I was one of the youngest leaders in the business. And I stepped back and said, wow, if this woman didn't take a chance on me, I would have never been able to get to where I am today. And even today, as a chief revenue officer at 33 years old, one of the youngest executives in my company, that's all made possible because of good mentors like Dee. So Dee was the one person that I think of, took a chance on me, helped develop my skills, gave me the real world experience. Again, I keep going back to that word that I really didn't get exposure to all the time. And that was an individual like Dee that bridged that gap. Another incredible individual was Professor Spinelli. He was an adjunct professor at St. John Fisher. He's an entrepreneur, world-class business owner. Again, someone like him, he taught me the keys to personal money management, finance, marketing. Those two individuals really shaped my career, shaped my life, and taught me the importance of, if you don't have a mentor, you can try to figure it out by yourself, but having someone that's looking after your career and making sure that you succeed is an absolute critical facet to be successful in your life.
Yeah, 100%. I know as a senior, that's one big thing that the professors harp on is make sure when you do land your job and land your role, you find a mentor or your mentor finds you.
Big time.
It makes such a difference, in the trajectory of your career.
Big time.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So the elephant in the room, the reason why we're doing this interview over Zoom and not in person is obviously COVID, which is, kind of screwed everything up. I was just wondering personally, because I'm interested in the field that you're in now, how has COVID, in the last 12 months, however long it's been, impacted and changed how you work and how maybe your business operates on a day-to-day basis? Has it changed drastically? Maybe not so much. How has it impacted your business?
So before I became the chief revenue officer, I was hired by Dynamic Design or DDS as their vice president of the company. And I actually had an apartment in Charlotte, and I was flying back and forth from Rochester to Charlotte. When the pandemic hit, I actually was grounded. And that was the first time in 10 years that I didn't travel for a period of 5 months straight. So that changed my life and my role. So I had to take a remote management approach. I had 10 direct reports scattered across the country. I wasn't able to interact and see them day to day. But shortly after those 5 months were done, I was back on a plane and I was flying regularly again, and we opened up our office full time. Secondly, the industry I'm in, which is Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and advanced robotics. Our business exploded. When some businesses closed up and entertainment and tourism and these industries really took a hard hit, DDS exploded. We were on the cutting edge of supporting the vaccine rollout, some of the biggest industries, food and beverage, things that were COVID proof, and not even just COVID proof, actually from a business standpoint benefited from COVID because there was this other portion of the pandemic that didn't hurt businesses that helped some of these businesses, like your Uber Eats and Grubhub. Our company supported a lot of these food and beverage companies and suppliers that provided the takeout containers. And we actually, by the state of North Carolina and the governor, we were declared an essential business. So I actually saw, Pat, a boom on our end. I ended up hiring like crazy. We doubled our workforce, and we had the opportunity to see our business flourish. And we ended up growing double-digit growth in 2020 over 2019 and continue to see that trajectory right now. So we were one of the fortunate businesses, I would say, that increased rapidly due to COVID-19.
Yeah, I know, like I'm, interviewing with different companies and things like that. And many of them have spoken about their hiring freezes and, cutting jobs and things like that. So, I mean, that's interesting and that's awesome that you guys have actually succeeded. And doubling in 2020 is like almost unheard of. Most people are going the other direction.
Yeah, double-digit growth was a big accomplishment for sure.
I mean, that's crazy. That's awesome, Oh, very interesting. I'm just curious. And do you do a lot of, I know, like you said, you were between Rochester and North Carolina a lot. And I remember some of my friends were in your classes, and it was Zoom. Before Zoom was cool, there was a lot of Zoom stuff going on. So I knew you were pretty well equipped on that at standpoint.
Yeah, I like to say I was kind of on the cutting edge of that. I always did. I did some high stuff even when I taught in the early years in 2014 at Fisher. I was traveling to Kazakhstan and Chile, and I would do live classes on Zoom, and I would do that from the different countries that I would travel to. So I also felt when the pandemic hit, a lot of people kind of felt like they were fishes out of water or didn't really understand it. I was doing that since 2014, so it just kind of felt natural to adopt with that. And when I was traveling back and forth for business every once in a while, once every month or so to North Carolina, I would Zoom my students and I would do a class live on Zoom in my corporate office down in Charlotte, which is really neat.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Zoom before Zoom is cool. I mean, that's awesome,
Definitely.
Gosh. So getting back to college, obviously you're an alumni of Fisher.
Yeah, alumni. I graduated in 2009 actually with my business management degree and a minor in languages, and I graduated in 2012 actually with my master's degree. So I'm a double.
That's awesome. So going back, either your undergraduate or your graduate self, if you can go back and tell yourself maybe one thing or one tip, give one piece of advice, knowing what you know now, 10, 11, 12 years removed, what would that piece of advice or tip be to a younger Adam Crandall?
Yeah, so Pat, what I would say is from the knowledge that I know now, if I were to be a student and look back, 15 years ago, one of the biggest things that I think I have really learned is if you can take advantage of not one, but multiple internships and build your network out when you are a junior and a senior, your chances of landing a job and being successful multiply by 10 versus just waiting for someone to hand it to you. I think a lot of students feel like Fisher is just going to make it happen for them, or they're entitled because they went to this great school. It's not going to happen. I mean, St. John Fisher is a great institution. They have a great education, but as a student, you have to make it happen yourself. And I think a lot of students, they don't really understand the importance of an internship or the importance of building their network. If I could have kind of gone back as a younger me, that is something right now that I would say, I took advantage of one internship, but I would have gotten even more. And, I would have really stressed, and I still would like to stress the importance to current students, take advantage of as many internships as you can, because they lead into full-time jobs, and they get you on the path for career growth that many people don't have the opportunity if they kind of rest on their laurels or kind of wait on the institution to hand it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember during your, the workshops, the LinkedIn workshops and different things, that was a major point of emphasis from you, was to get involved in internships.
And LinkedIn wasn't that big when I was a college student in 09 to 12. And, again, now that's another major tool that you bring up is college students have to be ready to leverage their LinkedIn. And a lot of them that don't have a LinkedIn, build one, get one up and running and use it to its fullest potential, because if not, you'll get left behind.
Yeah, I remember sitting on that, and I feel like I learned something new every 2 minutes. You were just uncovering every stone. That was such a helpful presentation to sit through as a sophomore or junior, especially now in my senior year. I mean, there's so many things that I realized that I have learned from you and that other students at other colleges are not taking advantage of.
Definitely.
It's such a helpful tool.
Very.
Perfect. So kind of my final question, looking forwards, looking into the future. Obviously, you've had a super dynamic career, starting out, like we said, at DDS and things like that. And it's tough to predict the future, as we saw last year. But if you could picture yourself 5, 10, 15 years down the line, do you see yourself working in the same field, in the same industry that you're in right now, working with the same products? Or do you see yourself kind of doing something completely different, off the beaten path? Again, I know it's tough to predict the future, as we saw last year. But what do you think is next for you in the short or long-term future?
Yeah, so short-term, I just was promoted to Chief Revenue Officer in my company in October. So I'm going to be seeing this roll through for at least another 18 to 24 months. My mentors have always told me 18 to 24 months, that's kind of the time you want to stay in these roles until you go for your next opportunity. My goal by 40 is to be a CEO. So that's kind of where I'm going to be looking to go. That's my path. I had goals to be a vice president by 35. I did that at 30. I wanted to be a chief revenue officer by 35. I did that at 33. So now I have my sights on a CEO or a president by 40. So that's going to be the long-term goal, I would say. In the industry, I would love to stay in the industry. It's growing like crazy. It's probably the number one industry from a growth standpoint, I would say right now. So I don't have any plans to leave the industry. And I think the other major portion is I've been doing a lot of exploration, Pat, on opening my own nonprofit or a non-governmental organization to help give back to the students in the community, and again, young professionals and different members in the community that are less fortunate. So one of the things I started at Fisher was the Adam Crandall International Business Scholarship, which gave a financial award to students that tried to better their careers and get into a global or a sales field. One of the big things I have my sights set on now that I've done fairly well in my career is to establish an organization with some sizable financial resources behind it to help students pay for their education and help them with individuals that are more not as fortunate to take advantage of these opportunities. So that's going to be a next big thing that's going to be coming out probably in the next 3 to 5 years, if I had to guess, outside of my business career. So those are the things that I'm looking at right now. And as a husband and a father, I have a 1.5-year-old at home. So that's going to be another thing that's keeping me pretty busy over the next few years. So a combination of those things, if that answers your question.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I was going to say, we could do this interview again another 5 to 7 years and you'll be CEO of the company. Little girl will be all grown up and everything will be good to go.
We'll see, hopefully.
Oh my gosh. Well, Professor Crandall, I really appreciate you taking the time with me. I know you're real busy, but this has been amazing. I feel like every time I speak with you, I learn something new, and I really appreciate you taking the time, for me, for the internship and for the school.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being your guest today, Pat. It's been an honor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.